If I am tense and I'm trying to do too much at once, then it's just going to not be fun. I'm going to be working too hard. If I'm relaxed, if I take a minute, let my muscles release, things are going to be happening a lot smoother, a lot more fluid. As long as you're calm and patient and loose, you will do a great job.
This is fun, man.
That was great.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Thomas. Jack is a local drummer here from Vancouver.
That's right.
And what is it, 6 months ago?
6 months.
You came in for a job interview?
That's right.
And now you've been here for 6 months?
Here I am.
And if you ever caught his original cover, you did a cover on Slipknot.
Duality, yeah,
Duality.
That's right. That's right.
And I think the title was One Armed Drummer Plays Duality by Slipknot. And it got picked up all over the place.
Everywhere. The whole world saw it. I had everybody messaging me. I even had Joey Jordanson's wife from Slipknot message me and give me props. It was breathtaking. Something I couldn't even imagine would ever happen.
Awesome. And now we're here for a lesson, which is we haven't done one of these in a long time. I don't know, there's been other things going on in the world. But it's good to be back behind the desk.
It feels good to be in this room.
Sitting here with you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Now, just to quickly touch on some housekeeping here.
Sure.
So Jack is playing a Pearl kit, Evan's drumhead, Sabian cymbals. Sabian actually was really kind to help put together this. What do you call this?
I call that like a foot crash.
A foot crash.
So, Mr. Mark Love, the chief cymbal creator at Sabian, he had this idea, how could he make a cymbal where you could basically hit it with your foot and make it resonate like a crash. And so he's developed this super paper thin, look at this, I'm bending this just barely, paper thin ride that's hooked up to a remote hi-hat system I will get to, but it just, once I play, you might have seen me play in the song there, it's just such a cool sound and expands my playability to tenfold.
Yeah, and man, you sound fantastic.
Thank you.
So great.
Thank you.
Big shout out also to Sweetwater. Sweetwater actually helped us procure some of the equipment for this specific stream.
Cool.
So they hooked you up with this rack.
That's right.
As well as this remote hi-hat.
The remote hi-hat that plays this very cymbal here.
Nice.
So,
look at this thing.
Yeah, that thing's awesome. You breathe on that and it's gonna bend. Like it's unbelievable.
So big thanks to Sweetwater. The links to those pieces of gear are right below the video, so if you're interested, go and check them out. And I'm sure you'll find some other stuff, even if you don't want a remote hi-hat and a rack. I'm sure you can find something there.
There's a lot of goodies.
So Jack, when we were talking about doing a lesson, we were talking about a bunch of different ideas.
Sure.
Well, you know, Jack, it seems like you'd be uniquely good at doing a lesson on building your weaker hand.
Well, thank you.
Which is one thing that pretty much every single drummer, every single human struggles with the fact that we have a dominant hand, we have a weak hand. Now, you're in a very unique position here.
Very unique.
Just tell people exactly, give them the Coles notes. I know you've posted more stories on your social media as well as in the Duality cover. You posted a little bit more about that. There's some pictures included there. But tell us more about how did you get here today? And how are you developing yourself on this kit?
Totally. So for those who don't know, I was not born like this. About 5.5 years ago, my arm was torn off in an unfortunate workplace accident. I was only 17 years old. I had been drumming up to that point. I was an open hand player, lead, snare on my right hand, stick in my left hand for the hi-hat. It was an absolute struggle to get back into things, but I was playing again in about a week's time. I was already back on the drum kit. I had immense support from all my family and friends and people around the world I had never even met, helping me get to this point today. And I went through a lot of practice, a lot of struggling, a lot of frustration, but eventually I got to the point where I was just okay and content with what I was doing and realized, of course, there were things I needed to change in order to get good at playing drums again. And of course, one of those things is developing my weak hand, which, believe it or not, this is my non-dominant weak hand. I did everything with my right hand before. So that's why this lesson is kind of really important for me, is for me, these were ways that I learned how to develop my weak hand without a proper education or without the resources that we have with Drumeo. Yeah. And so this was a huge deal for me. But it's been about 5.5 years now that I've been doing this, and I think I've developed a good sound. I think I've developed a very unique sound. Yeah. Lots of practice left, but I'm pretty pleased with how things have come. Yeah, and Jack is one of the hardest workers, man. You're putting in time at the kit. He's currently in 2 bands, one called Etheria and one called Burn Away. Yep. You're working here at Drumeo. He's known for his epic phone skills. You got this perfect voice, and so any phone call, there's so many of our students that call in and ask specifically for Jack. I don't know if it's something about being 17 in a workplace accident, because when I was 17, I got crushed by lumber, and basically my chest got torn apart, and I had tubes here. I collapsed the lung, lacerated liver. They told my parents they thought I was going to pass away, and it's like,
But I was 17, working in a lumber mill, and I remember sticking my hand into things and feeling my fingers knock against blades, and then looking at my friend. My friend's just like, dude, what were you doing? Like,
what's going on?
What I've learned is accidents can happen.
Oh,
so
can
fast.
they ever?
Yeah.
You think that it happens to anybody else, but you know, in British Columbia here, we have WorkSafe BCs, our workers' comp, on the side of their building, big letters that says it doesn't just happen to anybody else. And and even Jared's living proof that that's the case there. So any 17-year-old, anybody out there who's working in manual labor, be careful. Use this. Listen to this. These feelings are happening for a reason. Don't end up like me by making stupid decisions.
Yeah. Well.
So to say.
You're so modest, man. You're so modest. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. So we're going to talk about building the weaker hand in a moment, okay? But, Jack, you got to play us another song. Because, I mean, I love seeing you play. I love seeing, like, for me, it's like, how is he getting all those sounds? It reminds me of, like, when I first saw Horatio Hernandez play, and they called him the octopus, right? He's got four limbs, and it sounds insane. You have 3 limbs, and it's just like, holy crap, man. It's like crazy. So,
love it. You're
going to play a song called Stolen Eyes by your band Burn Away.
That's right, that's right.
And where can people listen to this on Spotify?
Yes. This is off of our newest EP. It's called 4915, which is the date of my accident, the 4th of September, 2015. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere you can listen to music. We also have an old EP on there, but this song is the title, or the first song off that EP. So go check it out. This is the instrumental. If you want to hear the angry voices, definitely check it on whatever streaming service you have.
You ever get really, really tired?
Oh yeah. I work up a sweat pretty easily.
I'm just looking at how you're like keeping track of everything here. Now, when you're stretching, is that because your arm just gets like super sore throughout the song?
It is. Of course, living with one hand, having this do everything, I have a lot of nerve issues, I have a lot of body issues. This whole side is bandaged up right now. I won't even get into the issues I'm having. But midway through songs, it's important when I have a moment to just stretch it out, stretch out my trap muscle, stretch out my pec. It allows for my fingers to move a bit more freely, get the blood flowing. It makes a night and day difference, between me seizing up while playing as opposed to just having that fluidity. So any chance I can get, I will stop, I will stretch, I will pull everything back. It really helps.
Nice. Awesome, dude. Let's get into this.
Love it.
Listen, I'm excited to hear about what you're going to share. I know Jack just shared with me some of the concepts he's going to talk about, and I was really excited about it because, like I said, it's something everyone struggles with. And I've worked on this pretty much every single week. I try and even things out a little bit.
Definitely.
And no matter how much I've done it, it's still not even close. I feel like the gap is like this much, right? On a scale of unending.
No kidding.
So the first thing you mentioned you want to talk about is left-handed, or I guess the weak-handed paradiddles.
Yeah. So going back a bit further, I did emphasize earlier that I played open-handed before. The benefit of this for me, before being two-handed jack, the benefit of this for me is that it allowed for me to kind of really open things up. It allowed for me to have a lot more dexterity with my strong hand, so I did a lot more ghost note action with my strong right hand. The downfall of that is that my left hand couldn't really do a lot other than hit the snare.
Hold on. You played open-handed,
Yep.
And you were right-handed.
I was right-handed.
So why did you choose to do that?
That's just how I learned. The first time I ever picked up a drumstick, admittedly, I thought he was so corny and cheesy. Like, this is going back before I even played drums. I thought he was always corny and cheesy. I would see kids in my class like cross their pencils over to play drums, and I'm like, oh, what are you doing crossing your hands over? That's not right. I thought you had to do it open. So that's just how I taught myself to play, was open-handed. And then I learned, A, it's a real thing. B, most people don't do that. And C, it opens up a lot of possibilities. If you've never tried drumming open-handed before, if anybody doesn't know, open-handed is instead of, where your left hand hits the snare the whole time and your right hand plays the hi-hat or ride, whatever, it's basically your hands never cross over. So you play hi-hat with the left hand, snare with the right, you move over to the ride with the right hand, snare with the left. That was just how I taught myself, and it was super nice for me. It was very easy. But yeah, as a right-handed person, I never felt it was an issue, and it definitely allowed for my right hand to be super strong. You're going to just have to take my word for it. I'm sorry. I wish I could prove that to you. But again, that was a struggle for me, was, okay, how can I get that strength? And I felt I was good at ghost notes. I was starting to teach myself Animals as Leaders things. I was starting to teach myself Dream Theater songs. But my left hand was always lacking. So, like Jared mentioned, one of the things I tried to do was, how can I really play a paradiddle with just one hand? Doesn't make a lot of sense. But basically what I'm doing is, I thought, okay, if maybe what would be my other hand, my right hand, is just a harder hit, I can work on accented things, because then it allows me to think of what I would do as a two-handed person, but I'm now just doing it with the one hand, and now I can utilize that later. So I guess I'll show an example here. This is what I mean by like a one-handed or non-dominant hand paradiddle, where you're accenting what would have been the other hand. So. So that's one way of doing it, and then the other way is. Pretty much what that did for me was, okay, my left hand now has to think about not only what my left hand would do normally, think about what the right hand was doing. And for someone like me, that was basically just relearning everything. How can I take what I knew with two-handed drumming, dissect it down, how can I make that possible with just the left hand? And so by doing that, basically by hitting accented notes where I would have hit my right hand, it again woke my hand up to realize, okay, so this is what I would do for that part. So then if I'm ever going to play a beat, my hand already has the, I guess, muscle memory to the sense that if I'm playing a beat, I know what my right hand would have done. I know that it has to come over to the snare. It allows for me to not just really go into things, not try and hit everything as hard as I possibly can. Having more grace notes, accented notes on things like the hat, and then coming over and hitting harder on the ride. It made so that I didn't have to work nearly as hard while playing. It made so that I wasn't getting as tired and my hand didn't tense up as much because, try and, hit the snare as hard as you can as many times in a row as you can. It just, you can see me tensing up right away. It's not gonna work for me. So by doing it just kind of allowed me to calm it down, break it down, and by doing that, it's made for so much relief in my arm and in my physicality and what I'm playing, and has, of course, increased my speed. So something that all of you can try. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. Just basically take your left hand or your right hand, whichever is your non-dominant, and just try it. Try it super slow at first. It's going to be tough. It feels weird. Just try and basically do that one-handed paradiddle. It's kind of a paradiddle, but it will really start to, if your left hand knows exactly what your right hand is doing, and vice versa, it's going to be a lot easier of a time for you. Let your limbs talk to each other because they're all connected to you. If they work together and know what each other's doing, it's going to become a lot more fluid to you.
So, can I just clarify? Can I try this?
Please.
Okay, so the paradiddle, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, left.
Yep.
You're saying, if you're going to do it with one hand,
Yep.
make all of the rights accented and all the lefts ghost notes?
For the most part, yeah. So, and then switch it around. Do left-handed accented, right-hand ghost notes. Whatever feels most comfortable. Even there, that wasn't even what, I wouldn't even consider that a full paradiddle. Just basically, if you switch around what your right hand would have done, so say your right hand, you would do accented notes, or call your right hand accented notes, hit it with an accented left hand, and then make your left hand the more kind of grace notes, the later notes.
I really like the concept of it, because as I was thinking about it, I'd be accent, ghost, accent, accent, ghost, accent, ghost, ghost. It'd be a really cool exercise.
You kind of have to switch what you're doing partway through. So instead of where you're going down, you'll almost have to start pulling it up as you start the next repetition, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
you have to do upstrokes essentially.
Yeah.
I would be interested to write some of your ideas out because I've never thought of it like that. And I wonder if you would play that, just how you use that around the drums. And I could definitely know that it's something you've practiced a ton. Seeing you fly down the toms. So can you just play around? Because with the music is one thing, but maybe you don't have to show us this concept exactly with a paradiddle every time.
Sure.
Just maybe do a little bit of a solo and just kind of show us how some of it gets utilized around the kit.
Sure. So, you've probably heard me play this fill multiple times between those two songs. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love triplets. Triplets are my best friend, but something like that. It's just, what I'm doing is, so that when I hit the first drum, so snare to rack, rack to rack, rack to floor, the first hit is like a grace note so that, I mentioned it, if anybody caught my drumming with one hand lesson, I mentioned that the importance of basically being halfway to the next drum by the time you're done hitting this one. And that's where that little exercise comes into play. You hit it lightly, you're already on your way over to the next drum where you can hit it harder, and then hit it lightly, hit it harder, hit it lightly, hit it harder. And it just allows for a lot more fluidity. And it looks cool, it sounds freaking sweet as well.
Can you do it nice and slow?
Yeah.
Just because you just did it just...
Yeah, try this out. So.
Next up, you wanted to talk about accepting rebound.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
So, with this whole ordeal that I went through, I realized quickly that I can't just be hitting things as hard as I can at all times. I'm a metal drummer. Imagine 17-year-old me playing things like Metallica, playing things like Lamb of God, Dream Theater, hitting as hard as I possibly can. I couldn't do that anymore. So I had to basically figure out, what is my stick doing? How can I allow my stick to do the work for me? This is my best friend. As much as I beat the crud out of it every single time I play, I love it. And the benefit of all of you is all of you have two best friends. So I had to basically figure out, what is my stick doing when it hits? And I just started off by something simple as that. What is the pivot point? When will my stick stop moving on its own? When do I have to start doing it myself? And I was at my previous job, Long and McQuaid. I sat there day in, day out on the practice pad, just how many hits can I get from my stick before I have to hit it again physically? And it started off by just doing 2. You know, it could just be a double stroke hit. You hit it, you pull it up, 2 hits.
Now you're actually using the fingers there a little bit too, right?
Something I'm starting to implement is more of a push-pull. I'm not very good at it, admittedly, but I am trying to work on
hard.
it. It's very difficult. You know, I can do better gravity blasts, like, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but push-pull, it's very tough. It's very, very tough. I have a lot of strength in this hand, and I still can't really get it that well. But that's kind of one of the things that I started to do. And not only that is how I hold my stick, how I pinch it, how hard I pinch it. All things I'll touch on. But once I got the 2 hits, I was like, okay, how can I get 3 hits? So if you notice, basically that second hit, I'm not doing anything. I'm letting the stick do that. I'm holding my hand in a way that I hit it once, the stick goes again, pull it up, that's a 3rd time. How can I get 4 out of it? It's all things, and then how can I get 5 out of it? All things that it took a long time for me to develop.
Hold on. Do the 5 again. You seem to have that one dialed in quite nicely.
I struggled with that a lot. That was one of the, I could get to 4 and then I was like, okay, I gotta get to 5, gotta get to 5. And it'd just be day in and day out. And that's something that I do every day when I come to drum. I sit down, if I'm not feeling it, if my hand is tense, if my forearm is tense, which is, you know, ask me any minute of the day, I'll probably say, oh yeah, I'm a bit tense right now. Ask anybody, and my muscles are made of rebar. I go in and I just start off, something that all of you can practice as well, is just try and make your way up to 5 and then down back to 1. Just keep working back and forth. It's going to be tough to get it, but just go in, try with your dominant hand first if you'd like, and then try with your non-dominant hand. Just start to get faster and faster and faster. Just work your way up, work your way down, work your way up, work your way down. Do it for a while, try and increase your speed. That's something that seriously warms my hand up, gets everything all nice. It works every muscle and every finger that I need to. It's so that when I continue to play it later in the day, I'm already warmed up. My hand is stretched, just strengthened. And that one little thing that I did almost every single day, even if I wasn't at a drum kit and I had something to hit, doing that helped to increase my speed and control primarily tenfold. It was so good for me.
I remember when I was at a drum festival and I saw Simon Phillips. He brought the snare to the front of the stage.
Right.
And he started doing doubles. You know, and then he goes, and now triples, and now quads, and now quints, and now 6 and 7, and he went all the way up to 9.
Yep.
And it was just like a blazing fast roll, playing 9 notes with each hand. And it's so much control.
It really is.
Rebound. Learning how to control the rebound is the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, the stick is your best friend. It wants to do stuff for you. Let it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not cheating. It's not anything to let the stick rebound. Yeah. It's drumming.
That's I always just tell my students. It's like, if you were playing basketball, would you put the ball on the ground and lift it up like this, or would you bounce it and receive the basketball? The stick is the same like that in reverse as it works on a pivot point.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that in itself is something that, like, I will be sitting on the couch. You can do it anywhere if you have a stick and something to hit. I talk to so many students that are even just starting out that say, oh, I don't have any drums. Can I start practicing? Sure you can. Get yourself a stick for as many hands as you have and get yourself something to hit. You can start playing. You can start learning. You can start figuring out how that stick rebounds and how you can make it your friend.
A stick for as many hands as you have. That's something that only you would say. Morguyver left us a comment. He says, if I learn to play one hand, will I get twice the value from a pair of sticks? No disrespect intended. Thanks for sharing your story, mate. You're absolutely amazing and inspirational. I thought that was a fitting quote to put in right there.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I'm very thankful. And yes, it's always a 2-for-1 for me. So I burned through sticks not half as much as I used to before, so it's always a good time going to the store and getting new sticks. That's for sure.
Nice. Importance of ghost notes. Talk to us about ghost notes.
So I mentioned earlier as well when I was talking about what kind of drumming I did before. I loved prog. I love metal. Things that include ghost notes, but like I was saying, open-handed drumming, I only ever really did ghost notes with my right hand. My left hand was always lacking. By doing those ghost notes with my right hand, it not only helped me with keeping time, but just also getting into the feel and getting into the pocket, as you may hear a lot of drummers say. By doing ghost notes, it allows you to just basically have more of the gaps filled by playing something, which I'm sure a lot of you that play ghost notes can relate to. So instead of, here's a beat example, instead of playing you can do something like this, and it allows you to get more into groove with things because you're playing more. You know?
Not so you know. Hold on. What did you just do there, man?
So what I was doing, I filled in the gaps between each hi-hat hit. I even threw in a bit of a kick to fill in the gap. By doing those ghost notes, I felt a lot more loose. I felt like I could lay back a bit more.
Can you play that again?
Yes.
That's so cool, man.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
That ghost notes were huge for me because I mean, even just doing things like keeping time on the hat. If I want to just be playing like a nice, calm beat. By playing ghost notes, I started to learn how I can play not as hard as I freaking can at all times.
Yeah.
And teaching yourself to play ghost notes and learning ghost notes, as difficult as it may be, even if it's just one light tap in between where you would, if you play a snare in quarter notes, if you play it on every second and fourth beat, maybe throwing in a ghost note on the third or throwing it in on the eighth or something like that. What that will do is allow for you to learn to control to play lightly, because one thing that I found, some people may be able to relate to this as well, playing slow and light is almost at times more difficult than playing hard and fast.
Yeah.
You have to really focus, and if you're playing fast, you can flub up, not as likely of a chance people are going to notice. If you're playing light and slow, everything you play is being heard.
Yeah.
So one of the things that, like I was saying, just starting to teach myself ghost notes again with my left hand was as simple as doing a more simplified version of what I just did of. And so that's something that you can do with one hand, with two hands, whatever it might be. Just try hitting that extra hit in there, but just light. I found that doing light ghost notes, it really matters for myself how I'm holding my stick, how I pinch it. So I should emphasize, like I said before, I never really had lessons. Like Ferris Bueller, stay off playing the clarinet, never had one lesson. So for me, I learned a lot of bad habits. One of the worst habits for me was holding my stick like this and holding it up really high. Downfall of that is that I got a lot of blisters really fast, really easily. The benefit of that is I learned how to manipulate how tight I'm holding my stick to get different feels and different sounds out of it. And so what that taught me is that I can pinch my stick a bit hard, and it allows me to get that power out of a hit while it's still being light. Because, you know, you could hit it lightly. You know, it's fine. Or you could hit it lightly. You have that oomph, that extra oomph to it. So
you're actually pinching a little bit harder to get that. That's interesting.
I'm pinching a bit harder to fill in the gap in between. And what that does is it kind of like, you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah, it almost pulls the stick over with your fingers.
Exactly. It's almost like a push-pull. It's an easy technique to kind of slip up with. Definitely make sure that you're not allowing your stick to kind of fall down here like I used to.
Yeah.
Keeping it up there, you know, holding your stick like a key. But doing that little pinch, it allows for you to kind of pull over faster, get that lighter tap, get a little bit more power out of it. But yeah, that for me was very important because ghost notes are something that I implement in a lot of my music and a lot of my playing and a lot of the songs that I play. And is something that you can practice very easily by just doing it every now and then while you're playing. And if you're playing it with your non-dominant hand, you will find that it will really start to allow your hand to know the differences of velocities. And once your hand is able to recognize and have the muscle memory between your lightest hit to your hardest hit, and then fill in all those little rings on the ladder, your hand is going to be so powerful. It's going to be crazy. You're going to win every arm wrestling match in the world.
Nice. That's my goal. Single-handed rolls. Jack, talk to us about single-handed rolls. I like this, known as the freehand technique, the gravity blast, the one-handed drum roll, the rim roll.
Yep.
Talk to us about this. When do you use it?
For a lot of death metal players out there, you'll be playing the using that while doing it on the ride and doing it on the kick. This is something that you can implement in your playing, even if you're not playing super heavy, fast music. You know, say you want to just go into a beat and you want to like start it off with a snare roll. Great, like it sounds awesome. It sounds really good. So what I'm doing there is I'm basically ricocheting the stick off of the rim, and I'm allowing my fingers to do a lot more of the work here. So it's almost like a push-pull thing. But again, this is where my lack of proper knowledge at the time came into benefit, where I found that pinching the stick a bit more, so again, like just a bit harder, it allowed for the stick to kind of be more in my realm. I was able to tell it what to do here. And so by pinching it a bit more, hitting it down, boom, 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 boom. You know, really fun, tough to try, but doing that, my goodness, you are going to develop so much forearm strength, wrist strength, hand strength, finger strength. That's going to help you out a lot. And if you're able to do that, imagine you were doing it with two hands. Imagine how fast your rolls could get and how cool that would be. And it seems really, really challenging, but really it's just once you start to try it, once you get the mechanism, get that kind of teeter-totter going, it's really fun. So that's one of the snare rolls that I do. Admittedly, something that's still a bit difficult for me to implement into my daily playing, mostly because I have to be up here so often. I can't really come down here as quickly. So what I'll do instead, coming back to my love of triplets, I will kind of throw in that little technique, the allowing my stick to bounce, and then adding in a bit more of that extra pinch like I was talking about. And I can get things to happen like this. It just, you know, that kind of the 20th century fox. It's just great. And what I'm doing there is, again, all that stuff coming up to, I let the stick bounce a bit. I'll pinch it as I'm coming up. It just allows for me to get more of that movement. That last one, I pinch it, pull it back, that hot stove molar. And it really helps as well, not just on the snare, doing things like going in from a fill or going in from a tom. Or even in my one-handed drumming lesson, I was talking about my sweep method. It's the exact same hand movements, exact same arm movements that I would do with allowing the stick to bounce as many times, the rebound, pinching the stick a bit to get a bit more power out of it. that's something that is just so much, added so much control for me, added so much movement and breath for me. It really increased the possibilities of what I could do with playing. Because again, it's not easy to be doing really anything with just one hand. It's also not easy to be doing something, say you have two hands, to be hitting as hard as you can. Your drums and your equipment and your stick, I will drill this home. It's there to be your friend. It's there to work for you. I would, in down the road, another lesson, maybe I could tell you about this the same way that the kick pedals are there to be your friend. But primarily, let this stick do the work for you. There's a lot you can learn from just watching and recognizing and seeing how your stick reacts to each drum.
So let's on that note, let's talk about the last point you had, being one with your body and the kit, because I think this is the perfect segue there, because I don't want to run out of time. So what do you mean by that?
So one of the things that I struggle with is my physical, my body. This accident shredded me. I won't get into the full details because it's quite bad, but I can show you my whole shoulder and all of this is taped up right now because basically my entire shoulder mechanism is dislocated right now. I have a fully dislocated clavicle and it hurts. It causes a lot of pain and tension. There's a big pulling motion with my accident, pulled a lot of nerves here. Needless to say, my body is not happy. I've had to get nerve surgery on this hand and this elbow because of that. So the most important thing for me to realize was how important it is to stretch. And Jared and I chatted about it at the beginning. You saw me go back like this. It's because I felt myself tensing up. Any chance you can get to stretch. And if anybody is interested or anything, please message me, give me a call. If you give us a call, chances are I'm going to be the one that answers. Message us in our support chat. Send us an email, support@drumeo.com. I will be happy to give you some stretches that you can do that will really help to get the blood flowing, get the nerves opened up. But listen to your body. If you're tensing up, it's probably because you need to stretch. You need to just relax a bit. You need to hydrate, whatever it might be. Doing stretches constantly while drumming, before drumming, and after drumming, it's just like a workout. It will allow for your body to move a lot more fluid. You're not going to turn into me who has rebar for muscles. It's going to be like margarine for muscles. It's going to be nice and smooth.
Nice.
And then, of course, get out of your own head. These are all things that I may make look easy. Sometimes I may flub it up. But don't get me wrong, I get stressed. I struggle a lot. And I know for many people, it doesn't matter what instrument you play, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're trying to do something with something you're not familiar with, like your non-dominant hand, you can get frustrated. You can get tense, and as you get more frustrated, you get more tense. The more tense you get, the less likely you're going to actually be able to pull off what you're doing. If you are frustrating and struggling, take a minute, tense up all your muscles as tight as you can, hold your breath, and then let it all go. Just let everything go, let yourself be loose, take a minute, and come back to it. That's something that I actually have a prosthetic arm that is controlled by my muscles. And that's one of the things that they taught me is that if it's not moving the way that I want it to, it's probably because I'm tensing these muscles up. Just release, and then I have control again. And then I thought, wait a minute, that goes for drumming as well. If I am tense and I'm trying to do too much at once, then it's just going to not be fun. I'm going to be working too hard. If I'm relaxed, if I take a minute, let my muscles release, things are going to be happening a lot smoother, a lot more fluid. And it might not happen right away, but as long as you're calm and patient and loose, you will do a great job.
Nice. I think that's a great point. And I'm going to stop you right there because it was perfect. Jack, that was fantastic. Some amazing tips in there. I'm sure it just flew by for you.
Yeah, I thought we were only 15 minutes in, honestly.
No, we're like 45 minutes in here. So, like I said at the beginning of the lesson, we were super grateful to work with Sweetwater on some stuff. And so I just want to give them a shout out because they did send this equipment, the rack, as well as the remote hi-hat for Jack. And if you want to check out any of that stuff, there are links right below in the description.
Thank you, Sweetwater. Thank you so much. This is a dream come true. Makes it so much nicer for me.
Big thank you. So Jack, you're going to play us one more song to close out the lesson.
Great.
It's called Tailspin by Etheria. And after that, I'm suggesting that we keep rolling, and I'm going to take one stick, one hand, and we're going to do a jam. You stay on the kit, and I'm going to just play around you.
Love it. Let's
Sounds
do this.
Good? Okay.
Jared's my right-hand man.
drummer?